Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dr. Steve Schlentz, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Dental Practice Freedom Radio. And if you guys are listening to this now, this is going to be like a public service announcement. If you're listening to this years from now and wondering what happened, it's a great question. I don't know exactly what's happening right now in the world. So obviously, for those of you who are not listening in real time, we are going through the coronavirus pandemic, COVID-19, as they call it, and the whole world is on lockdown. Metaphorically and literally, especially in the United States for the next few weeks. And obviously, as dentists, we are kind of caught in the middle of it. And for a lot of us, it seems to be a no-win situation. Do we keep our offices open? Now we close. We have the ADA just coming out and saying we should stop all elective procedures for 3 weeks. And some people are closing for 2 weeks. Some people are closing for 3 weeks. Some people are staying open, but only seeing emergencies. And regardless of your thoughts about is it overblown, is it necessary, is it politically based, this podcast is not about political arguments or if things are overblown. The reality is it's happening. And if you're a practice owner, this is a very scary time. If you're not a practice owner, but a dentist, it's also a very scary time. For example, I just sold my practice. And so I beat this coronavirus pandemic by 3 weeks. And it's given me a unique perspective in that one, I don't have to make these decisions as a practice owner. But on the flip side, obviously, I also don't have a practice. And so I was about to start working out of an office 4 days a week over the next 2 to 3 months as a way to help the transition up here to Philadelphia and put myself in a position where, I could kind of figure out how I want to structure my coaching and not feel that economic pressure of, okay, now I need more clients and things like that. Well, those things all get thrown out the window. I'm hoping in a couple of weeks we're all back to normal and even not normal, but we're back in offices and we're starting to do stuff again. I know most of you, if you're like me, 2 weeks being away from the daily grind, if you will, is it's even more daunting than the coronavirus. It's been 3 days and I'm already ready to get back to work. But that's what I wanted to talk about today on this episode, because I think it's important for us to put everything in perspective. And I've now talked to current clients that I have, potential clients. Obviously, everybody is kind of on lockdown mode and say, well, I don't want to invest right now, and I don't know what's going to happen. And, I understand that. I can see the point of that. I also can see the point that this is actually the time that you should be spending on your business. And going back to what makes us different, what makes us unique as an office, when we get back into the workplace, how do we further differentiate ourselves? Because I do believe that after this, there's an amazing opportunity for dentists that are at the forefront of health and wellness. I think it'll be a rallying cry and a point of differentiation. And you don't want to be profiteering from the coronavirus, but you also want to be thinking, how do we use this to accentuate what it is that we're doing, and to make sure that people understand that what we're doing is unique and different. We're not just a dentist that's, we're coming in and we're getting emergencies taken care of and we're leaving, which is fine. There's dentists that need to be like that, but there's also dentists that are highly technically trained. And we need to look at these as opportunities to further differentiate ourselves. So for the next couple of weeks, you might be asking, well, what do I do? How do I handle this? First is mindset. And I've been telling all my clients, especially the ones that have been with me from the beginning and have been through a lot of the mindset work that I've done. And I have just continued to add content in my own coaching platforms on mindset, belief systems. And, I've gotten just great mentorship from people like Bob Proctor, who is one of the foremost thought leaders on personal growth development and mindset. I can't think of a better coach and a better mentor than Bob when it comes to getting your mindset right on a daily basis and making it a belief system and a paradigm than Bob. It's just unbelievable. And, as I've taken clients through that process, I've seen changes on every level of their practice for no other reason than they've just completely changed their belief system and their paradigm about how they think. And that's unbelievable. When I've seen people grow literally 200% in terms of profitability by doing nothing but altering their thoughts. That's insane. And it's not insane. It's actually very predictable, but it's not the norm from what we're taught as dentists. We're taught to look at our systems and our policies and, even our team. Well, our team is usually a reflection of who we are as well. And so, you always start internally, and this is the perfect time to be working internally on what do I actually believe? What do I believe to be true? How do my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions determine a result? And what part do I need to really work on? And usually it's an emotional response to situations. And that's a repeatable pattern that we have. And so in order to change those repeatable patterns, we have to work on it just like we work on anything else. We didn't get good with crown preps by doing one crown prep and then we said, okay, we got it. No, we did it over and over and over. Our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions are the same way, that we think a certain thing over and over and over. We feel a certain way about that thought over and over and over. It leads to a certain type of action that is done over and over and over. We get a certain type of result over and over and over. And so that's the first thing, is really working on mindset and understanding our internal belief systems. Second, and I think this actually comes from mindset, is I know this is a taboo topic right now because we're all financially feeling the effects of something like this. But if this isn't a screaming call that we need to make sure that we have money under control in our practice, I don't know what is. A lot of people are struggling right now, practice owners. And, every practice owner is a little bit different, but practice owners are saying, I can't go 2 weeks without working. That to me is just a loud siren. You need to be doing something different in your practice. If you've been a practice owner for 5, 10, 15 years, and you can't go 2 weeks out of your practice without the whole thing shutting down or the fear of it shutting down, you need to change the financial structure in your practice. And I've been talking about this for years on this podcast. I've had mentors that have told me this for years, and I believe it now more than ever. You need to, if you are a solo provider, you need to be thinking very long and hard about running a huge production mill machine that takes a significant amount of cash in order to keep it afloat. I'm talking overheads of 70, 80, 90%. You really need to think about this. If your overhead is 50%, the economic stress that you're feeling right now is drastically lower. It's drastically lower. If you're a new practice owner and you're just building things out, there's a tendency to say, hey, I need to grow. I need to make more production. I need to see more patients. You need to really assess that belief, because that goes back to mindset. That goes back to the first one. There's a belief and a mindset amongst dentists that the things that matter are new patients, production, how many crowns you do. you will create an economic model that is very difficult to sustain in an environment like this. And people have asked me, well, you do a lot of full mouth rehabs. People aren't investing in full mouth rehabs. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that people will still invest in their health, more so now than ever before. So I don't believe a full mouth rehab is something that people will stop spending on. They may change the rate at which they do it, but it doesn't mean they will stop completely. And two, a lot of my practice can still be built on actual bread and butter style dentistry, which is periodontal, tooth decay, getting them on a good home care program, and then making a profit from that. But I can only do that if I have a smaller team, a lower overhead, less patients to see overall, less mouths to feed, if you will. So I understand that everybody's feeling it financially, and I get it. I'm feeling it too. So, I don't want you guys to think that I'm not feeling it. Listen, I've had a lot of stuff happen in the last month. This is probably the worst time for me to be now out of work. But I also understand this stuff like this passes, and I'll be better on the other end of it, because I'm going to have 2 weeks to actually go back into my business and figure out, how do I best help my clients? How do I best help my patients? What are some things that I really want to work on? What are some content that I want to put out there from my coaching portal that I haven't had time to be able to do yet? So I look at everything on the flip side, but just from what I'm seeing, you guys, when we're stressing about taking 2 weeks off, I'm not saying it's going to change overnight. It's not, but you need to start looking at your financial structures, and it is so important. I've had 3 separate occasions, I believe. The first 2 years into practice, I forgot if it was the first year or the second year, but it was very early on when I was a practice owner. We missed 12 or 13 days because of snow over the course of like a month and a half. And I remember thinking to myself, what did I get into? This is awful. Because we had a policy, I didn't think this was going to happen. We had a policy that if it snowed, I would just pay them half. And I thought maybe that'll happen 2 times a year, 3 times a year max, like 12 or 13 times. So I paid them for an entire week, and we weren't in the practice. So I get it. I understand where you're coming from. And I just had started this practice. So, when you start a practice, you have all these bills and you're trying to figure it out. And you just realize, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What did I get into? That made it imperative that I started to put money away in a profit plan. And it was tucked away that if there was ever an emergency, I could tap into that. I'd have a cash reserve. You have your money that goes to taxes, and then there's a money that goes to the reserve, and then you run your business on the rest. It's a profit first philosophy. Well, profit first wasn't a book at that time, I don't believe. It was a concept that I learned from another management group, and I modified and made it my own. And it was by no means perfect. And I'm still working on the money thing. But I will tell you, 3 separate occasions, that concept has bailed me out, because there's been 3 times that I've had a cash crunch, and I've been able to move beyond it because of that. And that was on a very small scale. When I started to travel a lot, it actually was very cash intensive for me. And it's one of the reasons that I sold my practice. It took a lot of time, energy, and money to keep up traveling, 2 days a week in my practice, and then going to a new state, and then, trying to make this all work. It was a kind of a cash sucking idea, if you will. But I knew, looking at the finances, like it had to happen. And so when you are looking at this, I encourage you to start to think about, how have I structured my office? Is this sustainable? Because inevitably this kind of thing will happen again. We're saying, well, this is unprecedented. I think in our hyper-connected world, this will happen again. And you have to be prepared for it. And I'm not telling you to go to a smaller office. I'm just telling you, it's a lot easier in a time like this to run a smaller practice and to leverage your knowledge and skills to be able to create a profit machine that can withstand the storm. So that's the first thing, really, or that's the second thing. First thing was mindset. Second thing is prioritize and relook at every financial discipline you have in place in your practice and start to ask yourself, is this working for me? Because as a practice owner, I've seen so much fear and panic, and people say it's the health. I want my patients to be healthy. I want my team to be healthy. I want to be healthy. I want to stop this. But then they're moving to stay open, and I want to stay open. Well, what is the motivation for that? It's economic. You can't afford to stop. Please really look at that and say, if I am in as an owner of a business, I can't take 2 weeks off of my business without the whole thing shutting down. I need to reassess how the financial structures are in place in my business. And when this thing passes, I need to start to look at, do I want to ever do this again? So it's not I don't want you to feel bad because you're in that position, because 99.9% of dentists are. But I'm encouraging you, what are you going to do next time so that this isn't such a financial hit to you? You got to have a financial plan in place. You have to start looking at, if my office makes no profit at the end of the day that I can tuck away, what am I doing? I'm a big believer in creating and changing lives. And I can't do that if I don't make a profit. And I can't do that if every time I look at a patient, I'm feeling like they're a dollar sign and not a human. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes a purpose, it takes a vision, but it can happen. And you're not going to get that from too many coaching platforms out there, because most of the coaching platforms out there are all about production. They're about growth. They're about seeing more patients. It's not the answer, guys. It's not the answer at all. It's only the answer if your economic model is built on those things and you're comfortable running at an 80, 90% overhead. And maybe you have 10 different offices that over the 10 or 15 offices, you're able to generate enough profit to where you're not concerned. But mark my words, this economic uncertainty is really going to hurt offices that have a very high overhead, because they're not going to have a cash flow strong enough to sustain them through lean times. So lean, mean practices right now they're going to be fine. They're going to survive, and they're probably going to thrive, because there's going to be an increased market share for somebody that is really looking for a provider that cares about people, health, wellness, relationships. So that's the second thing. So we had mindset, we had economic drivers. Third is really understanding your business structure and systems and how to best deliver what it is you do that no one else does. And obviously you're listening to this, you probably have some unique point of differentiation. I think we're on 132 now in terms of episodes. If you've listened to any previous podcast, you know that the first two things I've talked about on this podcast are things I've talked about at length over and over and over again, because it doesn't matter to me if the coronavirus pandemic is here or not here. The concepts are exactly the same. Understand who you are, your belief systems, understand how to get financial drivers in place so that you can create a truly a practice that reflects who you are. And then understand, how do we best deliver what it is that I'm best at? Those are systems, those are structures and policies that are actually driven towards your unique selling proposition, your USP. I've called it Blue Ocean. We've talked about a lot of big business concepts on this podcast. But the point is, now is the time to go back and say, how do we best deliver our best dentistry? How do we deliver our best dentistry? Because if we don't have a way to deliver our best dentistry effectively over and over and over and over and over again, we'll never be able to reach our fullest potential. So those three things are vital in a time like this. And go spend time with your family. Go take advantage of that. And I know everybody's like, hey, everybody gets to spend time with their family 3 weeks. Talk to me in a week. What that actually looks like. They're going to be like, just give me the coronavirus. I want to get back to work. So, we look at these things though, and there's that initial fear and panic. And I understand that. And then you'll hear a lot now, stay at home, work on your mindset. Well, what does that mean? That's not just positive affirmations. That's really digging in deep to subconscious belief systems, subconscious driving forces, understanding who we are and how we operate. Then be honest with yourself. I'm creating some stuff for my clients right now in terms of money dynamics and flow. I've never fully utilized the Profit First system in its entirety from Mike Michalowicz, just because as a solo provider and a solopreneur, I have a coaching business, a dental office, then I have personal income, and there was too many accounts. And I will tell you, when you have that many accounts, if something does happen and you have to try to report it to your accountant, it gets a little bit messy. And, as you know, a couple episodes ago, I had been through a divorce. The legal fees alone, trying to get all those accounts taken care of and handled, and the statements always, up to date as we were going through that process, that cost me a lot of money. And I said, I don't really want a system where I want 22 bank accounts if I have 3 ways that I'm going to use Profit First in my life. So I just kind of eliminated some of the accounts, but the concepts are the same. I tuck money away as a profit that is not to be touched. I tuck money away as taxes that's not to be touched. And I underestimated taxes. So then I'm going to go back and refine the system. So I've been putting all that together for my clients so that they know, okay, where am I currently at financially? Where do I want to go? And how do I put a structure in place to do that? Most dentists don't have that. They just kind of pay bills when they come in and they hope for the best. And when something like this happens, it's a rude wake-up call that is woefully inadequate. And then I'm working on my own systems and structures during this time. Like I talked about, how do I deliver my best dentistry to my best patients? As a coach, how do I deliver my best training to my best clients? And if I can continue to refine that process, I will be successful. And I encourage you guys all to do the same. We're all in this together. Hopefully this isn't too much tough love. It's just some things to think about as you have the next couple of weeks that you're trying to figure out, what do I want to do? How do I want to handle this? Start to really look at your personal life and your family, but also look at your business and say, how do we start to move forward and create a lean, mean machine when we get to the other side of this, that patients just want to flock to us in droves. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much. If you get value out of this, if you can leave me a review or rating, that would be greatly appreciated. As always, if you have over the next couple of weeks, if you want to spend some time actually talking to me, trying to figure out where your dental office is, where you want it to go when all of the dust settles, I encourage you to hop on a call. We are taking clients into both the Dental Sales Secrets platform and a new platform that I launched, that if you get on the call with me, I will tell you more about it and how you can actually be a part of that new coaching platform. And so with that being said, you guys take care, stay safe, try to socially distance yourself from not just people, but also really negative news. And with that, I'll see you at the next episode.